I'm going to start with a canvas that is 11 by 14 inches at 300 pixels per inch. And you'll notice over on the right, I have a reference image loaded in my reference image palette. This is a painting of a parrot that I created back in 2012. So I'm going to use that as my reference, but I'm going to change it quite a bit, and I'm going to rework it into a Cubism style. I'm going to start by creating a sketch using the Detail Oils brush and kind of a medium gray pencil color. I should be doing this on a separate layer, but I wasn't paying attention here, so I'm doing this on the canvas, but that's no worry because we can go ahead and just remove this from the canvas layer once we're done sketching. What I'm doing is I'm using angular strokes here to represent the parrot. I don't want to use any curves because I want this to look kind of polygonal and in the cubist style, so I want to try to avoid curves as much as possible and focus more on sharp angles. Now, I'm still blocking in all of my primitive shapes the same way that I would when I'm doing any other normal sketch, but I'm just making them a little more exaggerated. They don't have to be exactly in proportion. They don't have to be shaped exactly like the reference photo. I want people to be able to look at this and go, okay, it's a parrot, but I don't want people to recognize that it looks exactly like a photograph of a parrot, because the point of Cubism isn't to achieve a realistic appearance. It's to give a different perspective on something. And so this will be my interpretation of this parrot in a cubist style. So it's going to look quite a bit different, but still look like a parrot. So I'm loosely going off of my reference photo here. And I'm just blocking in each big solid area. For example, there's this white area around the eye that I want to account for. And you can kind of think of this like you want to kind of fracture this and segment it. There really isn't any rule that says you have to do it a certain way, but I'm just finding each kind of chunk and blocking that in, and then here and there I'm subdividing all of those chunks in different ways. And this is really just from imagination. I don't have any reason for doing a lot of this stuff. I just started putting in those lines randomly, and I wasn't thinking too much about it. As long as it's generally fitting that parrot theme, it doesn't matter how perfect it is. I'll just put in a few little details here and there, and then I can start cleaning up my lines and making them a little bit better. As I mentioned earlier, if I want this sketch to be on a separate layer, I need to do select all and then edit cut and then edit paste in place. That puts it on its own layer. I can just rename it sketch. If I want to be able to see through the sketch onto layers underneath, I can change the composite method to multiply. I also want to go ahead and tone the canvas layer so that it's not just this bright white color. I'm going to choose kind of a lighter gray like this and choose fill. That'll fill it with that gray color. And now it'll just be a little bit easier to work while I'm painting. I'm going to try to use very few brushes in this piece, so I'm mainly going to be using just one brush for most of it. I'm going to go ahead and dim that sketch layer so it's faint, create a layer beneath it, and I'm going to go ahead and name that line. And I'm going to use the sketch that I made as the little foundation for me to go ahead and create these better, cleaner lines on top of that. So you can see I'm using the smooth palette knife here. Smooth palette knife is a good brush to use because depending on what you have it set to for the blending presets, you can add paint and you can blend paint. When you pick your pin up, it's almost like you're dipping your paintbrush into the paint and you're getting more paint. And it's going to continue putting down paint. With this particular setting, it's not going to run out, but again, you might have it set to a different blending preset, so you'll want to look at that in your blending palette. But for this particular option, it's set to paint with blender, so I'm just adding paint here. But if I kept painting for longer and didn't pick my brush up, then I would start to blend. And as I'm painting two colors together, there is some mixing of the color. You're not going to see that here while I'm painting this black, but you will see it a little bit later. I also like it because it gives me this kind of rougher, more painterly look. I don't want this to be absolutely perfect lines. I want this to look kind of, not really sloppy, but just not as tight and refined as most of the stuff I normally do. I want it to look more like a traditional painting that was more spontaneous rather than something that was too well planned out. So I'm going to go ahead and just block in all of the dark lines and areas here and build up my framework for this. I don't have to follow this sketch exactly. I can adapt on that sketch and I can change some of the lines and I can add lines and remove lines, whatever I want to do here. And again, I'm just kind of doing it spontaneously. You do want to work with the form of your object rather than against it, but again, there's no rules, so you can really do whatever you want with these lines. Loosely sketching them in, and then I'll go over them again and just kind of reinforce them more and make them thicker. I'll go ahead and just continue blocking in the lines here, and then we can start adding some color on separate layers. So I'm going to go ahead and create a layer beneath my lines so that my lines stay on top of my color. And you can feel free to separate colors out however you like. It might be good to have a layer for white and a layer for red and a layer for yellow and so on, because it really just kind of helps you a little bit in case you want to change that color later, or in case you want to kind of save yourself time. If you paint your topmost layers first, then you don't really have to worry about like cleaning up the edges. You can actually paint on layers behind some of the paint, which saves you a bit of time. Like for instance, if I put this red layer down here, I'm painting underneath that white layer, so I don't have to worry about going along that edge and over painting it. I can just paint over it, but the paint won't go on top of the white. It stays underneath it. You'll see what I mean if you try it. It does save you a bit of time there, because otherwise you'd have to paint over the edge and then repaint it, and it's just kind of a lot of wasted time. I painted along the edge there till I had a closed shape, and then I filled in the center with the paint bucket. Again, that saves a little bit of time, and being efficient means that you'll have more time to spend painting, and you'll be able to work on more paintings rather than wasting a bunch of time on one that's completely unnecessary. I'm going to make another layer for blue, and again, that's going to be behind the red layer. That way I don't have to worry about painting over that edge. And later, if you want to flatten all these down to a single layer, if that's easier, you can do that. But for now, I'm going to keep my layers separate here. I'm just going to fill this in however I feel like doing it. I'm still being pretty spontaneous, but I'm loosely following that guide there in my reference painting. If you want a more abstract view of your parrot, just kind of blur your eyes when you look at it and look at just the fundamental shapes that you see. You don't see a lot of detail in the parrot, but you see the general red part of its body and the white part of its eye and so on. And kind of think about it that way. Like what you're drawing is a sharp version of a blurry version, if that makes sense. And it can be more angular. You're replacing curves with angles. I'm going to do the branch on a separate layer, and you'll see that all of my colors are all separate from each other. And again, that way, if I decided that at some point I didn't like the color of the branch or something like that, rather than having to repaint the branch, I could simply just shift the color of the branch. But it also lets me just paint behind all those feathers there without having to worry about the edge. I'm going to create a new layer for eye, which is going to be above the white, and I'll fill in some color around the eye there. You'll notice I made the eye square. Obviously, parrots don't have a square eye, but again, that just helps it look in more of a cubist style. I'm going to go to the canvas layer now, and I want to go ahead and just fill in some of the background because I don't like it that gray color anymore. I'll fill it in with kind of a bright green, and I want to put in some little indications of leaves in the background, but I don't want curves, so I'm just going to use random spontaneous strokes here. Again, I'm using the smooth palette knife. That gives me that nice streaky paint look, and it's kind of blending as I'm painting. And I'm going to go horizontally and then vertically with different strokes and kind of layer them up. And it's going to make kind of a woven pattern, but I want the background to ultimately look kind of like a bunch of cubes and blocks and things like that. So this is really just going to kind of be the foundation for now, and then I'll go through and refine it a bit more later. You certainly could leave the background like this, and then it's not quite as distracting, but I want the background to be a little more complex to give the impression of leaves. I'm going to go ahead and save a copy of my artwork, and then I'm going to start cleaning this up. I might strengthen some of the lines by making them bolder. I'll go along some of the edges to clean those up, clean up any little stray pieces of paint. I'm not going to worry about cleaning up absolutely everything. I do want to leave a few imperfections here and there so it looks kind of like a more spontaneous rough painting. You'll see that I erased a little bit there. I'm adding to some of the lines and just trying to help this look a little more clean. You'll notice that I'm zoomed in, which gives me a more clear view of whether or not the edge is cleaned up or not, whereas I was working more zoomed out before because that helped me just have a more general overview of everything and I could see everything at once. But I'm going back and forth. I'm sampling colors using Alt, and that's letting me pick up colors on the screen. But this really does feel a lot more like traditional painting because I'm just using this one brush and it's kind of blending as I'm painting. I'm working back and forth and cleaning up those lines. Here on the eye area, I'm adding the impression of some feathers or some texture by adding these triangle patterns, which again kind of helps it look like a cubist style, but also implies a bit of a texture or that there's feathers there. I'm going to add in a little bit of yellow on the eye there to help that stand out. And then I'm just going to continue cleaning this up until I'm happy with how it looks. Now it's up to you if you want it to be kind of flat and two-dimensional, or you can add a little bit of shading by adding darker or lighter colors. You can do that either on the same layer using a lighter or darker shade, or you can create a separate layer like I'm going to do here. I'm going to call that darken, and I'm going to set it to a multiply composite method. Then I'm just going to paint with kind of a lighter gray. What that's going to do is that's going to automatically add the tones, but it doesn't matter whether I paint over the red or over the blue or over the yellow. it's going to pick the appropriate tone without me having to change my color to a different color to match that area. So you do get a less accurate shading result here because you should be shifting your hue, especially on this yellow, to like an orange if you wanted it to look like a more natural shadow for the yellow. But in this case, it doesn't really matter. This just makes it quick to go in and put in a bunch of quick shadows like so. If I want to add some highlights, I can do that on a separate layer as well. You would want to set that to screen. But if it's easier just to sample and pick colors, you can do that as well. I'm doing that here and there, just picking the exact color that I want and putting it in. You'll notice that I'm adding a few little lines and weird little shapes here and there. And again, that's just helping this look more unique and more cubist. It adds a little bit of visual interest and detail, but it doesn't need to necessarily represent realism. Of course, a real parrot isn't going to have all these weird little lines and shapes on it. But I want this to look like my parrot, not like a real parrot, so that's why I'm going to add these things because I feel compelled to. Adding a few highlights on the branch to help that stand out, and now everything's starting to look more three-dimensional, and I'm giving everything some form. I can add some little lines here and there and some little notches. These kind of imply feather textures and things like that, and I'll kind of outline them to make them look more cubical. I'll add a few highlight lines here on the tail as well, where it's in the shadow. And now I'm going to start doing a little more work on the background. I'll create a multiply layer for that, and I'll use a dark gray to go in and just highlight some of those areas. This is kind of separating some of the lighter and darker green shades from each other and creating a kind of a more cube look. And just like I did on the parrot, I can create a screen layer for all of my highlights, and I'll just go along those edges. Again, I'm really not trying to do anything intentionally. I'm just kind of doing whatever my imagination tells me to do here, and just highlighting some of the edges, but I want them to look like different colored cubes and rectangular and geometric shapes. So here I'm going in and I'm sampling colors just like I did on the parrot using Alt and just painting in and trying to just clean this up and make it look a little less sloppy, but still not too refined. And trying to make each of these squares just a little tighter. I might add some colors, I might remove some colors, but being zoomed in just really helps you focus more on those details, whereas being zoomed out, again, as I mentioned earlier, just kind of helps you get a better overview of your piece as you're composing it. And so I do go back and forth between zoomed in and zoomed out quite a bit here, just to get a feel for what I'm doing and how it's coming along. Now here and there, just to add a little flavor and make it a little more abstract, I'll add in a few other colors that aren't greens, like this blue-green and this kind of brownish color and a little bit of red and some white. And I'll just kind of highlight some of the edges of the boxes, draw little boxes, and again, just cleaning this up. I know that when I speed up the footage, it makes it seem like I didn't spend very much time on this, but do feel free to take your time when you're painting this and make sure that it's going to meet your expectations and your vision for the piece. Now, if you're not happy with the way something looks, feel free to experiment, because in experimenting, you can sometimes find the solution. For example, I'm going to take my background and I'm going to free transform it. Then I'm going to select the perspective distortion, and I'm going to distort it so that it looks like there's kind of a vanishing point that goes up towards the top. That almost gives the impression that the bird is high up in the trees and those leaves kind of fall into perspective. I'm doing that by dragging this bottom left corner here. Now I noticed that it's revealing some of the background where I didn't paint in the squares because there was no reason to paint them in. The bird was covering it up. And by accident, I kind of like that effect. I like how all the squares kind of go up, and before they touch the bird, they kind of all fade out organically like that. Like I couldn't have planned that. It just kind of happened. And so that's the value in experimenting. And that's also the value in keeping all your layers separate, is it gives you more flexibility. So I'm going to go ahead and just merge all these background layers. I must have done something here to duplicate my layers. I didn't mean to do that. I'll just merge them all down to the canvas layer there. And then I'll go back to my parrot layer. And I'm just going to kind of strengthen some of those lines a little bit more, because now that I'm zoomed out, I see that I do want to separate the parrot from the background a little bit more. And so on mostly the outer edges of the parrot, I'm just going to make those a little more bold than the inner lines. And that kind of gives it maybe sort of a shadow or sort of an outline, and really just separates it from that background, since the background is a little busy. Unfortunately, since my parrot is still on a separate layer, I can rotate it a little bit using free transform, because I feel like it was not at quite the angle that I wanted it to be at. So I think that looks a little bit better. I also want to try to help it stand out from the background a little bit more, so I'm going to duplicate the parrot layer, go to the bottommost parrot layer, and I'm going to turn on preserve transparency and just fill it with white. And then that way I have a copy that's underneath that's filled with white, and then I can just nudge it or move it using the layer adjuster in any direction that I want. I'll go up and to the left because I feel like that works for me. That's kind of where the light's coming from in this piece according to the highlight on the eye. And so maybe the edge of the parrot there is kind of catching some sunlight. And that just helps elevate it up off the canvas, and it helps add to that stylistic cubist look. I'm going to go ahead and save my artwork now. And on that bottom layer, I'm going to go ahead and just name that parrot edge so that I know what it is. I'll create a new layer on top of everything and set it to lighten. And I'm going to select kind of a bright red color, and I'm just going to fill that layer with that color. That's going to give everything kind of a tint. Now that's way too strong, so I'm going to back that down a bit until it's really only affecting just the darker areas of the piece. That's going to give it a little bit of a warm flavor. That helps to kind of change up the black areas and help them just look a little more flavored and not so neutral. It's up to you to decide if you want to add effects like this or not, but I find it kind of spices up the piece because you get sick of looking at it after a while, and these little details help it look like kind of a fresh or slightly newer piece. Now I'm going to add some canvas texture on a layer. I'm going to set that layer to Overlay Composite Method, and then I'm going to fill it with a neutral gray that is exactly 128, 128, 128 for the hue, saturation, and value. Or if you're using my workspace here, it's that very middle gray swatch in the color set libraries. I'm going to select a particular paper and apply surface texture from the effects menu. That's going to add some texture over the piece. I chose a standard canvas texture here. I don't think I like that particular size of the grain, so I'm going to increase the paper texture size and apply that effect again. And I think I like that better now that it's a bit bigger. Now, this particular effect and these canvas textures have a habit of looking a little too fake or too digital, so you'll want to add a mask to that texture layer, select black and use something like the sponge to paint over your texture. What that's going to do is that's going to erase some areas of it and help it look like a less consistent pattern, which is really how it should look, because if you applied a bunch of thick paint to a real canvas, there wouldn't be canvas texture showing everywhere. In some areas, the paint would be so thick that it would cover it up. And so this kind of has a twofold effect. One, it's helping the background pattern look less repetitious, and two, it's just helping it look more like a natural painting by not having such a consistent distribution of texture there. There's some of it getting covered up and some of it showing through. So I think that's looking pretty good so far. I'm happy with that. Because the texture is on its own layer, I can still paint behind the texture without painting over the texture. So I can go back to that parrot layer, and if I want to use my eraser, I can kind of clean up the edges a little bit more. I can add paint and I can remove paint, and that texture isn't going to get interfered with because it's a separate layer. Now I'm going to zoom out and evaluate my piece from a distance to see how it's coming together. I think it's time to start wrapping this up, so I'm going to go ahead and save yet another copy of this. And then I might want to add some fine little lines here and there just to enhance some of the edges. This is one of those examples of using line, which is one of the elements of art. Now you could consider these emphasis on the edges, or maybe they're reflections, like maybe this branch is wet, or maybe it's just shiny, maybe the feet are shiny and they're reflecting some of the color of the parrot. But again, it just kind of helps this look a little more stylized, and it helps add contrast to some of the edges. And I think after adding those few little details, I'm pretty happy with this piece, so I'm going to go ahead and call this a finished painting.